class 11th and 12th students. In this video, I'm going to talk about a very major experiment from your chemistry practicals, and that is your salt analysis. Now, what will be the aim for the experiment? It is to identify the acidic and basic radical in the given salt. Now, what is this acidic and basic radical that the question is talking about? Acidic radical is your anion, and the basic radical is your cation. Now, why do we call them acidic and basic respectively? Is because, for example, if I'm talking about a cation and I ask you why cation is called as a basic radical, let's talk about the cation Na+, right? So now if we know that Na+ is formed, it would be formed from the hydrolysis of a base. For example, if I talk about sodium hydroxide, it would have given me Na+ plus OH-. So now this Na+ is being given from the hydrolysis of a base, and that is why I call this as my cation. And if I'm talking about an anion, let's talk about sulfate. And I know sulfate would have been produced by the hydrolysis of an acid like H2SO4. So what would have been the products of the hydrolysis of this acid? This would have been 2H plus SO4 2-. So from where did I get this anion? I got this from the hydrolysis of the acid, and that is why it is called as an acidic radical. Now, before I begin with explaining what all steps and procedures to be followed to identify your anion and the cation in the given salt, we will first look at few basic tests or the preliminary examination of the salt before we actually proceed with our chemical test. Now, what are these preliminary examinations? The very first thing is that we are going to have the salt in the solid form. So if you get your salt in the solid form, obviously that is you going to get it. You can check if it is amorphous or if it is in the crystalline form. Now, what is this amorphous and crystalline form? Amorphous means it would be in your powdered form. It can be like your face powder. Your face powder is in the amorphous form, or we can talk about chalk powder here. The consistency, the physical state of your face powder and chalk powder is amorphous. So if your salt is amorphous, then you can compare it to the face powder or the chalk powder. And if that is the case, you can have one surety that your salt might be having carbonate ion in it. So you can proceed with your assumptions, or you can proceed with this idea in your mind that your carbonate might be present, and you can have a confirmatory test for carbonate from here. Now, if your salt is in crystal form, what do you mean by crystal? Your crystals are like your salt, the table salt that you use at home, your sugar. Your sugar is again in the form of crystals. If that is the case, then there is a chance that you might be having nitrate as an anion in the salt. So now this is just an assumption, and we never conclude by just looking at the solid form of the salt. We are definitely going to follow all the procedures, but this is just an indication that this particular anion or cation would be found in your salt. The second preliminary examination is the color. As per the CBSE curriculum, only the colorless salts are to be provided to you for the experiment, because I'll just explain why and how. For example, if you see a colored salt, or let's say if I had a white salt given to me by the examiner, then I am sure of one thing, that cations such as Cu2+, your copper ion, your cobalt ion, manganese, nickel ion, your ferric and ferrous both, these are going to be absent. Why? Because you know that your copper ions are blue in color. What about your cobalt ion? This is somewhere around reddish brown. Your manganese salts are pink in color. Then your nickel is green in color, most of the salts of these ions. Then again your ferrous and ferric salts are colored. So if I give you a colored salt, you will directly get an indication that this particular cation is going to be present in the salt. So as per the CBSE curriculum, you are only going to be provided with the white salt. And if there is a white salt, you should be sure about this thing, that your copper, cobalt, manganese, nickel and ferrous ions and the ferric ions are absent in your salt. So this is again an indication which will help you in your further analysis of the salt. Talk about the next examination, and that is odor. Odor is the smell. Now if I smell the salt that is given to me by the teacher and it smells like acetate. What do you mean by acetate like smell? It is nothing but your vinegar like smell. And there is also a chance that you might be able to identify ammonium ion here, because your ammonium ion obviously has an ammoniacal smell. So when you are doing the preliminary examination and you smell the salt and you feel it is like a vinegar like smell, then you can have a little surety that it might be the acetate ion. If you feel it is like ammoniacal smell, or the ammonia smell is coming from the salt, you can be sure that ammonium ion can be present. I'm again repeating, these are only the preliminary examination which will indicate towards the ion or the cation. These are not to be used as a confirmatory test. The next test is your solubility test. Now solubility in where? Solubility in water. So again, as per the CBSE curriculum, we only have water soluble salts in our syllabus. So if you take a pinch of salt in the test tube and you add your water and your salt dissolves in it, then you have to be sure that salts like, let's say, PbSO4 are absent. That means your lead and sulfate as a combination will be absent, because lead sulfate is not soluble in water. So your solution would not have been soluble in the water. But since it was soluble, then this combination is absent. As preliminary test that you can perform, which will help you in the further procedure, is the flame test. Now what is the flame test? We just take a platinum wire and we make a loop of it. It is going to be a loop of this, and you just dip it in the watch glass which is having salt, and now you just bring it to, or put it to fire or the flame. Now if you observe nothing when the salt was being encountered with the fire, then no need to worry, you just have done the preliminary examination. But just for the chance, if you get to see, let's say, apple green color in the flame, this apple green color means that barium as a cation might be present. And if you see crimson red, or you see brick red, every color corresponds to a different cation when you're talking about the cation analysis. If it was crimson red flame, then you can say strontium is present as the cation, and if it is brick red, you can say it is calcium ion that can be present as the cation. Now these are the three colors that you can see. Apart from that also, if you see any color, that can indicate a different cation. But what I am trying to tell you here is, just in case you do not see any color, there is no color, then you have to be sure of one thing, that group 5 cations are absent. Now what are group 5 cations? I'll very soon in the video tell you what are the group 5 cations, but barium, strontium and calcium belong to group 5. So as I told you, all these three cations, they have a peculiar color when subjected to flame. So once you see that there are these colors, you can directly say that group 5 cations are present. Just in case you do not see a flame color, then you can say that group 5 cations are absent, and you can skip this group and move to the group 6 analysis. The entire salt analysis is dependent, or is divided into two different types of analysis. The very first one is the anion analysis, and then we do the cation analysis. And it is always advised to do anion analysis before you start with the cation analysis. Now for anion analysis, we always use the salt. Obviously we know that we are going to use the salt, and we use the salt in the solid form. And for cations, we preferably take the salt in the original solution. The original solution is nothing but the mixture of your salt and water. You just take salt and add water in it, and that is called your original solution. Now for anion, for most of the experiments, we are only going to take the salt in the solid form only here. Now the anion analysis is basically divided into three major groups that will help you to achieve your interpretation quite easily. The first one is your dilute H2SO4 group. The second one is your concentrated H2SO4 group. And if nothing is very clearly confirmed from these two groups, then we have few of the anions that are there in the independent group. I'll be talking about all of them one by one in detail. Talk about dilute H2SO4 group, conc H2SO4 group. I am saying that you have to dissolve your salt into this particular acid, that is your sulfuric acid. But my question is, why for all the anions we are only using sulfuric acid and not just any other acid like nitric acid or hydrochloric acid? The reason is that all the anion analysis that is being done, it is being tested by the means of fumes. We are going to test all the fumes that come out once you interact or encounter your salt with sulfuric acid. Now why? Because in case you have any other acid, for example, if I take HNO3 or I take HCl, then the acid is also volatile. What will happen? You have taken your test tube, you have added salt, and let's say you added HNO3. So now what will happen? The moment these two will mix together, HNO3 will also come out as fumes, because we know the volatility of HNO3 is very high. So it will be very difficult for you to further go into the study, because you do not know if the fumes are of the salt or of the acid. We have to analyze the salt here. So we just want the fumes coming out from the salt and not the acid itself. So when I talk about H2SO4, H2SO4 is very low volatile, or we say it has a very low volatility. So it will not transform into fumes. So whatever fumes that will be coming out from the test tube will be of the salt, which will help us in the analysis of salt. All right. Would have taken HCl, you would have the fumes of HCl also. If you would have taken HNO3, you would have had fumes of NO2 also, which would have confused you from where the fumes are coming. That would have been the analysis of the acid that you are using and not just your salt. So that is why, to avoid any confusion, we are only going to use H2SO4. Talk about the dilute H2SO4 group. Obviously, you will be taking the salt and adding a small amount of dilute H2SO4. Now, what all what all anions are present in this particular group? You would be having carbonate ion. You will be having sulfide ion, sulfide, DE, sulfide. You will be having sulfite, TE. And you will be having nitrite ion here. How will you test if it is present or not? What you will do is, whatever the reaction that you will be observing would be due to the fumes coming out as carbon dioxide. In the sulfide, you will have the fumes coming out as hydrogen sulfide. Here you will be having sulfur dioxide. Here you will be having nitrogen dioxide. So these would be the gases that would be coming out, and you will be observing these gases for the confirmation of the particular anion that is present. Similarly, if I talk about concentrated H2SO4 group, you have chloride, you have bromide, then iodide, you have acetate, and then you have nitrate. So again, here there would be the fumes of HCl that will be studied. Here it is going to be bromine gas, here iodine gas, here you will be studying the vinegar-like smell, and here only you will observe this once you have heated, and this will again be nitrogen dioxide. Now, apart from these two, if you do not observe any change that is happening after adding dilute H2SO4 group and the concentrated H2SO4, then you will proceed to the independent group, which will be having your sulfate anion and your phosphate. So this is going to be the entire anion analysis that we will be looking at. Okay, now let's start with the very first group, which is dilute H2SO4 group. So what are we going to do here? We will take a pinch of salt in the test tube, and let me write it because it is a micro analysis. A pinch of salt plus you will add, let's say, 1 ml of dilute H2SO4 to it. And now you are going to observe what happens once you add dilute H2SO4 group to it. So I will first start with the very first observation that you might notice. The very first is going to be your brisk effervescence. Now, what is brisk effervescence? You must have seen ENO at your home, and the moment you add water to ENO, it starts forming the bubbles, and those bubbles start rising up till the top of the container, and they even might come out of the container. So now what is that brisk effervescence? It is in Hindi you call it as bulbule, right? So ENO like bulbule, if you see happening in the test tube, then you say that the brisk effervescence is being observed. This brisk effervescence because carbon dioxide is being released. So if that is the scene that you see, you say that your anion is carbonate anion. So what is the indication that it might be carbonate anion? You must see the brisk effervescence coming out of the test tube. Now what you have to do, you have to confirm if it is carbonate or not. So what we'll do is, we will pass this CO2 that is coming out from the test tube through lime water. Now what is lime water? We know lime water is calcium hydroxide. Here I want to emphasize on one thing, and that is the particular calcium hydroxide, that the lime water that we are talking about here is, it should be freshly prepared. Now why it should be freshly prepared? Because we know calcium hydroxide will absorb or dissolve carbon dioxide from the atmosphere also. If it is kept for long, or if it was made quite before you started with your experiment, this would have absorbed the moisture from the atmosphere, and it might already be milky before you even add your brisk effervescence gas into this. So just to avoid any confusion, what you will do is, you will prepare the solution freshly and then pass this carbon dioxide through the solution. Now, if your lime water turns milky, then why will this lime water turn milky? It will turn milky due to the formation of calcium carbonate. What will happen if you have a reaction between calcium hydroxide and CO2? It will form calcium carbonate, which is milky in nature. So due to the formation of calcium carbonate, your lime water will turn milky, right? And if you continue to add more carbon dioxide to this lime water, then it again becomes transparent due to the formation of, I'll just write it here. If more carbon dioxide added, then again transparent. Why? Due to the formation of calcium bicarbonate, right? All this is going to confirm just one thing. And what is that thing? That your salt has carbonate as anion. Okay, so I'll just summarize what we have done. We had taken salt and we added dilute H2SO4, and I saw effervescence coming out. So what I did was, I started passing this carbon dioxide, this effervescence that was being observed, through the lime water, the freshly prepared lime water, and my lime water turned milky, which has already confirmed that it was carbonate. But I can still confirm if I start adding more of carbon dioxide to the same solution, it will now became transparent from milky. And this is going to be due to the formation of calcium bicarbonate. So if this happens, you will be very lucky, because the very first test and you will confirm your anion. Now you added salt and dilute H2SO4, you mix them together, and you did not see a brisk effervescence. Instead, you saw a brown color gas. Then what? Now this is the second observation. Either you observed a brisk effervescence or you saw a brown color gas. There are more options available. We'll come to it one by one. So now you saw a brown color gas. This will indicate that now NO2 is being released. Okay, and the ion here, an ion here rather, is going to be NO2 minus, which is called as the nitrite ion. Now, once you saw that NO2 gas, which is a little brown in color, is escaping out, now what you will do is you will add ferrous sulfate solution to it. That is why I'm writing it as aqueous. Now, once you add ferrous sulfate solution to it, to what? To the above test tube only. Okay. Now, again, you have to keep in mind one thing, that this ferrous sulfate also has to be freshly prepared. Now, why? Because as we need Fe2 plus from this ferrous sulfate, okay, and if the solution was made a very long time before, then what will happen? Your Fe2 plus, which is there in FeSO4, will undergo aerial oxidation and it will convert into Fe3 plus. Now, why does this happen? This is your ferrous ion. Your ferrous changes into ferric. If you remember, the configuration for ferrous is 3d6 and for your ferrous it is 3d5, and this is obviously more stable due to the half-filled stability. So this is a rapid reaction which happens. So if your FeSO4 solution was made a long time ago, then it would have undergone this aerial oxidation and your iron would be in the form of Fe3 plus now, which we do not need, right? You won't get your test if your iron is in 3 plus form here in this particular reaction, because here it will not give you that black color that you need. So now you should remember that you have to use the freshly prepared Fe2 plus solution. Now what will happen, the moment you add FeSO4 to the test tube from which the brown gas was escaping, your color of FeSO4 changes to black. Your solution converts to black. Earlier, what was it? It was a transparent solution of salt with H2SO4 from which the brown gas was escaping. Now the solution has become black. Original color of FeSO4 is pale green. So when you add this pale green color solution to your test tube, now your color of the solution is black. This is black due to the formation of a compound which is FeSO4.NO. So now due to this it is black, and the moment it turns black, you should be sure that what anion is present here? Nitrite anion is present. Okay. This will be your second observation from the dilute H2SO4 group, and you will add the required reagent to confirm if it is nitrite or not. Now you added salt and then you added dilute H2SO4 to it, and you saw brisk effervescence. You did not see it. Then the next option was there should be a brown gas, and you did not observe it either. The third case is you start smelling the smell of rotten eggs, sade hue ande. It's a very bad smell. Okay, and the moment you have this smell, you should be knowing that this smell is due to H2S gas which is being released. And that means the anion present here is going to be what? It is going to be S2 minus, which is sulfide ion. Now the moment you smell this rotten egg like smell and you get suspicious that the anion present might be the sulfide ion, then what you have to do is you will add lead acetate paper to your test tube, or to the solution which was there in the test tube. Okay. Now this lead acetate paper originally was colorless. But now if your sulfide ion is present here, it will give you a confirmation by turning black. So if your paper turns black, why this will happen? This will happen due to the formation of lead sulfide. Why this lead sulfide would be formed? Where from lead will come? Lead will be coming from your lead acetate, क्योंकि आपने lead acetate का paper use किया था. And from where this sulfide would be coming? It would be coming from your anion or your from salt. So if you add this to your test tube and your paper becomes black, then it is a confirmation that the sulfide ion was present. Now we can do again one more confirmatory for this, and that is, this was your first test, and you can have a second test also, which says that if you use original solution, what is original solution? Your salt plus water, and you add sodium nitroprusside solution to it. What is sodium nitroprusside? The formula is Na2FeCN5NO. Okay, and if it changes to violet color, then also we say that what is present? The sulfide gas is present. So you have two confirmatory tests for your sulfide ion. Let me just write down the equation once again. It was your original solution plus what did you add? You added Na2FeCN5NO, which is your sodium nitroprusside, and it turned violet due to the formation of Na2FeCN5NOS. This is your violet coloration. So again, now this will confirm that what did you have? You had sulfide as the anion. Now the problem is you added dilute H2SO4 to your salt. You did not observe brisk effervescence, you did not observe a brown color gas, and you did not observe rotten egg smell. But rather, there was a fourth option available. I'll just write it here as 1, 2, 3, and then you have a fourth observation, fourth type of observation. And this fourth type of observation is a pungent gas which is colorless. There is no color to the gas. There is a pungent smell, but the smell is not rotten egg like smell. It is still a different type of a pungent smell. Now if you observe this, then you should be sure that the only option left for you is your sulfite ion. Okay, so now how will you confirm this? You will just add potassium dichromate solution to it. What is the color of potassium dichromate? It is orange. And you will see a green colored solution. So I can just write it as from orange, now it is converting to green color. And due to this green color, it will be a confirmation that the sulfite ion was present. So again, there is one more confirmatory if you want to be sure. What is it? It is your original solution. Original solution is salt plus water. Plus you can add barium chloride solution. That is why I'm writing aqueous. Now once you do it, you observe a white precipitate. This white precipitate is due to the formation of BaSO3. Sulfite was there in your salt. So the sulfite from your salt has attacked the barium, and now it is barium sulfite. And the moment you will add conc HCl, your concentrated HCl, this PPT will dissolve. So this is also a confirmatory test for your sulfite ion. Also one more way by which you can confirm your anion if it is sulfite or carbonate, by using this particular apparatus which is called as a U-tube. This is going to be used for two of your salts, which would be your carbon dioxide gas through for the carbonate, and your sulfur dioxide from your sulfite. Now what is to be done here is you will be taking lime water on this side of the U-tube, and here you will be adding salt plus K2Cr2O7 in the solid form, just a pinch of the salt of potassium dichromate. Now from the top you will add dilute sulfuric acid. Now you added dilute sulfuric acid, we know that the salt would have released the gas either it is going to be carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide. This is only a confirmatory test once you have detected that your dilute H2SO4 group, one of the anion is present. So now this gas will rise up as soon as you add dilute sulfuric acid. There is going to be these gases. Now what will happen is these gases will start passing from here to the right side. So now if it was carbon dioxide or if it was sulfur dioxide, both we know that turns lime water milky. So as soon as you add a dilute H2SO4, what we'll do is we'll put our thumb here. I'll block it from here so that the gases do not escape out from here. The gases have to travel to this side to meet lime water. So all the gases will travel to the lime water, and if it turns milky, it could be what? It could be either your carbonate ion present or it could be your sulfite ion present, right? So if your potassium dichromate, which was what color? This potassium dichromate was orange in color, right? If it turns green, this particular salt turns green, then we say it is sulfite. And if it doesn't turn to green, it remains as it is, then we say it is carbonate. So this can be used as a distinguishing test between the carbonate or the sulfite ion. So once you have confirmed for, let's say it was carbonate or sulfite, you can still perform this test to be doubly sure. If your dichromate changes to green, it is sulfite. If it remains as such, it is going to be your carbonate ion. So now, if you added salt plus dilute H2SO4, okay, and I say that there was no effervescence, that means there was no carbonate. If I say there was no brown gas, that means there was no nitrite. If there was no rotten egg smell, that means there was no sulfide. And if there was no pungent smell, then we know that there was no sulfide. So all the cations that we said belong to the dilute H2SO4 group, they are absent. Now what should we do? The next step that we have to do is we will say that this is absent, and we'll directly move to my concentrated H2SO4 group. So this is going to be my next step. I will write that no effervescence, no brown gas, no rotten egg smell, no pungent smell was observed. So the dilute H2SO4 group is absent. And the next is we'll start analyzing all the anions that are present in the concentrated H2SO4 group. And what are those anions that we are looking for in this particular group? It is your chloride, it is your bromide, iodide, nitrate. Remember, this was nitrite in the previous group, and acetate. I'm adding salt plus concentrated H2SO4. So what is the first possibility? The first possibility is you get a colorless gas with a light pungent smell. If something like that happens, then we say that chloride may be present. We are not yet sure of it. So now what we'll do is, and also I would like to mention it here very particularly, since you are going to add concentrated H2SO4, please use a dropper to pour concentrated H2SO4 to the test tube. Do not try to directly transfer the acid to the salt. This is very corrosive in nature. You might harm yourself. So please use a dropper here. So now once you have started adding this gas may be obviously chloride, bromide, iodide, nitrate or acetate. Now if it is a colorless gas here, what will I do is I will take a rod, a glass rod. This particular test tube had your salt and few ml of your concentrated H2SO4. I will dip this glass rod in ammonium hydroxide. This would be easily available on the table of your laboratory. So you bring a glass rod dipped in NH4OH and you bring it to the mouth of the test tube. Because we know that some gas, some pungent smell, a colorless gas was evolving out of the test tube from here. So now what will happen? The outcoming gas from this test tube will interact with NH4OH, right? So now once you do it, and let's suppose the chloride was there. So what would be coming out from here? HCl gas would be coming out. So if HCl is coming out, then what will happen if it reacts with NH4OH? It will produce NH4Cl, right? Which is dense white fumes. So once you take salt and concentrated H2SO4 and you bring a rod dipped in NH4OH towards the mouth of the test tube and it shows dense white fumes, then you should be sure that chloride is present. But if there are no dense white fumes, then that means the chloride ion was not present. It's one way of confirming if it is chloride ion. This was first. Now what also I can do is I can add pinch of MnO2. MnO2 is black colored compound. And MnO2 is an oxidizing agent. So on adding MnO2 through the sides of the test tube, I am adding MnO2 through the same test tube in which there was salt and concentrated H2SO4. So if it converts the HCl gas that was coming out to chlorine, so if it shows us pale green color, then again it is confirmed that chloride was present. If there is no pale green color, then chloride was absent. So what has happened here, the HCl that was coming out from the test tube is now interacted with MnO2, which is your oxidizing agent, and it will produce green color solution. So if this happens, then chloride is also confirmed. Now there are few other methods given. You can use either of them, but I have the responsibility of telling you all of them. The other way is you take the original solution. Now, what is your original solution? Salt plus water. Now you add AgNO3 solution. What is AgNO3? It is silver nitrate, 1 to 2 drops. You will always find silver nitrate solution in dark bottles because all the silver salts are photosensitive. They will break down on interaction with light. So they are always in the black bottles. Silver nitrate here, and you got white precipitate of AgCl. Now what you will do is you will add ammonium hydroxide in excess. And the PPT dissolves, the white PPT that was formed in the above test. Then again chloride is confirmed. This is the third confirmatory. And then you have one last option which is very important from the point of view of Viva also. This is called as chromyl chloride test. Now what is this test? You take a dry test tube. Okay, you have here your salt plus K2Cr2O7, which is obviously orange. So let me make it a little like this. Now what you will do is you will add concentrated H2SO4. Now the moment this will happen, you will have reddish brown gas evolving. And if not, this reddish brown gas is not evolving immediately, you can just try heat it a little bit. The reaction becomes a little more vigorous and more amount of gas would be released from here. So now what will happen, this reddish brown gas that was released, you have to pass this over NaOH solution. What I will do is I will take a test tube in which I will have NaOH solution, and whatever the gas was coming out from this test tube, I'll let it pass over this solution of NaOH. Now NaOH solution will turn pale yellow. This will turn pale yellow due to the formation of sodium chromate. Please remember, it is not dichromate. Dichromate will have 2 chromiums. This is sodium chromate. Now NaOH solution turns pale yellow due to the formation of sodium chromate. Now to this particular test tube only, you will add lead acetate solution. What is lead acetate? It is PbCH3COO whole twice. Now you will have an entirely yellow color solution after the addition of lead acetate. Now this becomes, it is not just a solution, it is having yellow precipitate also. I will mention it here. It will have yellow precipitate due to the formation of lead chromate. So now this will confirm that your chloride ion was present. You can use any 2 or 3 tests to confirm chloride because it is a very important test. So I will just quickly give a recap. You added salt and concentrated H2SO4 to a test tube. There was a pungent smell which gave you an indication that chloride may be present. So the very first thing you did was you dipped a rod in NH4OH and brought it to the mouth of the test tube. If there were dense fumes, you can directly say chloride is present. Or you can do one thing more, that you can add MnO2, that is an oxidizing agent, to this test tube only, and it will change to green color, which will also confirm chloride. You can take the original solution, add AgNO3, it will form a white precipitate which will dissolve on adding excess of ammonium hydroxide, which also confirms your chloride ion. And the most important test is your chromyl chloride test, which will also confirm that the chloride ion is present. So once you get the indication that it is chloride ion, you can use any of the confirmatory test. Now again, we are on the same topic of the same group, that is salt plus conc H2SO4. So we did a one option where the colorless gas might be present, which is a little pungent in smell. Now I observe that it is not colorless, it is brown or violet color gas that I observe after adding concentrated H2SO4 to my salt. So now if it is brown, then you can say that it was due to the bromide gas that is being involved, and your anion can be bromide. And if it is violet, it gives you an indication of iodine gas that is being liberated, and your anion will be iodide. So now how will you differentiate which gas is which one? So to differentiate it, we use a organic layer test. Now what is organic layer test? What will I do here is, I will take original solution, salt plus water 1 ml, plus I will add any organic solvent which is there in your lab. Please ask your lab assistant or your teacher to help you with this. You can use chloroform, you can use carbon tetrachloride, you can use carbon disulfide, any one of them in 1 ml quantity. And you know, since this is your solution in water and this is your organic, so this is going to be immiscible. Since one is polar and the other is non-polar, the solution will be immiscible with each other, right? So what will happen is, you will have this test tube and you will have a layer. Obviously the organic solvent layer would be towards the downside because it is a little more dense, it has more density, so it will settle at the bottom. And the upper wala layer will be having your original solution, which will have your bromide or iodide ion. We are here to distinguish if it is bromide or iodide, right? So now what will I do is, I will add an oxidizing agent to this test tube. This oxidizing agent can be your chlorine water, it can be your nitric acid. And now what will happen? Just keep your thumb here and shake it vigorously. Okay, so what will happen after you shake it, because you had also provided oxidizing agent and you are shaking it vigorously, your bromide ion will become bromine gas, your iodide ion will become iodine gas. And we know that both bromine and iodine, they both are covalent molecules. And when you shake it so vigorously, your covalent molecule, since they are your covalent molecule, they will go and dissolve in the organic layer, right? Because of the extra motion that you had provided by shaking it. And once it will go to the organic layer, they will dissolve in this. And the moment these covalent compounds will dissolve in your organic layer, they will change color. Now, if the layer changes to brown, it confirms the presence of bromide ion. And if the layer changes to violet, it is your iodide ion. So I'll repeat what you have to do. You have to take a test tube. You have to add your organic, the OS to it, that means salt and water, and then you will add your organic compound layer. And you will add an oxidizing agent, which can be your nitric acid or chlorine water, and you just have to shake it vigorously. The moment you shake it, the covalent molecules will break and it will get dissolved in the organic layer, and the color of the organic layer will change and tell you which anion is it. Just in case you don't know how to prepare chlorine water, you just have to take 1 ml of your potassium permanganate, add concentrated HCl. Now what will happen? Your HCl, due to KMnO4, will convert into chlorine gas. So this is your pale brown, this is your chlorine water that we prepare for the test. Okay, now if you added salt and conc H2SO4 to a test tube and you did not observe, I'll show you what all the options were. You did not observe a colorless gas or a pungent smell that would have indicated chloride ion, and you did not even get a brown or a violet color gas. Now what you can do is, what did you observe? There was no gas. Okay, so now what you can still, before moving on and before being sure कि concentrated H2SO4 group present नहीं है, what you have to do is, you just, this was your test tube which had your salt plus concentrated H2SO4. What you have to do is just take a piece of paper, piece of any paper, and put it here. Put it in the test tube. Or you can take copper turnings also. This also would be available in your lab. So either of them will work. Either it is a piece of paper or copper turnings, because both of them act as a good reducing agent. So I can use either of them. Okay. So now you just add this and you heat it. Now I'll tell you what is actually that we are doing here. If I talk about a piece of paper, what is piece of paper? We know it is a carbohydrate. We have been studying it since the junior classes. And you have already added your group reagent, which is your concentrated H2SO4. And we know this is a good dehydrating agent. What is dehydrating agent? It removes water, right? So once these two combine together, what is expected? Since it is a dehydrating agent, it will remove water. From where? From the paper, right? And if from the carbohydrate the water is also taken away, what is left? You are left with carbon. So I'll write, you are left with carbon. And we know carbon is a good reducing agent. And that was the purpose of adding the paper here, right? So now if you heat it and you observe, this was just for your note, and you observe brown gas evolving from here, sorry, then you have to be sure that it is nitrogen dioxide gas being released, and your anion here is nitrate. This is a confirmation in itself. Please, before you say that the concentrated H2SO4 group is absent, please add a piece of paper or copper turning and heat and check there was no brown gas. Then only you will say that this group is absent, because this would require this heat and this paper. Apart from that, you cannot observe the brown gas directly. So once you see this, your work is done. Now there is another confusion which a lot of children face, and that is, you had this test tube, it had your salt, plus it was your concentrated H2SO4, plus there was paper. There was a piece of paper here that you added, and then you heat it, and you were heating it, right? Now in case you find that the solution is turning black, remember what I am saying. If the entire solution is turning black, it is not the gas. I told you in anion analysis, we are concerned about the gases that are being released. So if the entire solution turns black, it is nothing but just the carbon which is used up. जो इसमें carbon बचा था आपके पीछे, जो आपने टेस्ट किया था, now that is the carbon that is being used up by heating. So you just cannot conclude that it was nitrate if the solution is black. Your anion was not, if this is black solution, then your anion was not nitrate. So carbon could not be used up. Okay. So your aim is to check the brown gas and not the carbon black. Remember, if there is a brown gas, then only you will say it is a nitrate ion. If your solution starts turning completely black, then that is not a confirmation test. And that is why, just to avoid this confusion, there is one more confirmatory that you can do, and that is called as a brown ring test. And this test is again important from the point of view of Viva. Now what we do is we take a test tube, and in this test tube what we take is, we take 1 ml of my original solution, and I add, after adding 1 ml of original solution here, I will add 1 ml of ferrous sulfate solution. Okay, again it always has to be freshly prepared, because on keeping, what will happen, it will change from Fe2 to Fe3 plus, because we know aerial oxidation will occur and 3D6 will easily get converted into 3D5. This is more stable, and we do not want this, we want this only, Fe2 plus. So freshly prepared FeSO4 is used, and concentrated H2SO4 is added along the sides of test tube. You just do not take a dropper and add concentrated H2SO4. You will take a dropper and add a drop-wise concentrated H2SO4 along the sides of the test tube. And if on the junction of two layers you see a brown ring, then you will say that nitrate is confirmed. So a confirmatory test is your brown ring test. Apart from that, you can always check by adding a piece of paper or copper turning and see if the brown gas is being evolved. Again, salt plus conc H2SO4. No colorless pungent smell was observed. No brown or violet color gas was observed, and there was no gas which, even on adding a piece of paper or copper turnings, it did not release a brown gas which was confirming nitrate. Nothing happened. So the last option that you are left with is, you just take salt plus concentrated H2SO4, and if you smell vinegar-like smell, if there is a vinegar-like smell, then you can say it is acetate ion that is present from this group. So what will be the confirmatory if I have to confirm it is an acetate ion? I will take my original solution. I will take FeCl3 solution, and I'll mix both of them. And if there is a deep red coloration, now why this deep red coloration will appear? It will appear due to the formation of this compound. This is your iron acetate. And if you just keep it for some time, and it changes to reddish brown precipitate, then we say that acetate is confirmed. Salt and you added dilute H2SO4, there was no gas. no effervescence, no gas, nothing was coming out. If you added salt and then you added concentrated H2SO4 to it, there was no gas of whatsoever color. You heated with paper or copper turnings and still there was no gas, there was no vinegar smell, then it clearly means that your dilute H2SO4 and conc H2SO4 group are absent. Now what to do? Now you will start testing for your independent group. And obviously for the independent group, there is no group reagent. There is not a fixed reagent that you will use. These are two different individual tests. And what are the anions that are present in the individual groups? It is your sulfate and it is your phosphate. So you will be testing for them separately. The first test is for sulfate. You will directly use original solution here. You do not have to use the salt. Take original solution, add barium chloride to it. And if there is a white precipitate, which is due to obviously barium sulfate, because if my salt had sulfate ion in it, and you add concentrated hydrochloric acid and the PPT remains. PPT remains means the PPT is not dissolving here. If the PPT remains, then I say that sulfate is confirmed. Okay. And if the PPT dissolves, then what? If PPT dissolves, then we say it is oxalate ion. What is oxalate ion? It is C2O42 minus. So how can you confirm if it is oxalate ion? We just take original solution, we add calcium chloride and calcium oxalate. An insoluble precipitate is formed which will confirm oxalate. So we do not give oxalate very frequently, but if your PPT was still remaining here, you will say that the sulfate was confirmed. Now, if you take original solution and you take lead acetate solution and add to it, there would be formation of a white PPT, which is due to the formation of Pb sulfate, which is lead sulfate, and you add ammonium acetate to this and your PPT dissolves, then again it is a confirmatory test for sulfate. Now please remember, if your sulfate is confirmed, then do not do phosphate. It is obviously just one anion that is going to be there. So if sulfate is confirmed, your phosphate is out of the picture. But if your sulfate is not confirmed, you do not get a PPT here, then you will have to test for the next and the last anion, that is your phosphate. How will you do it? You will take original solution, you will add concentrated HNO3 and then you will add ammonium molybdate. What do we call it? We call it as ammonium molybdate solution. We heat it and then we wait. Now, if there is a canary yellow precipitate, it's a beautiful yellow precipitate that appears. If it is there, then we call it as the phosphate confirmed. What is this yellow color due to? It is due to NH43, 12MOO3, 6H2. This is due to your ammonium phosphate molybdate. And if this canary yellow color is there, then it is surely phosphate ion. Last few important points before I wrap up an ion analysis. Just in case you have had carbonate ion, then remember, ये कैसा दिखेगा? It would be like your face powder. Okay, if you get, let's say, phosphate and sulfate as your anion in the salt, then one thing is for sure, lead nahi hai as a cation आपके solution में. Lead is in group 1 of cation. I'll just explain this after anion. and your group 5 cations, which are your barium, strontium and calcium. What I'm trying to say here is, if you get phosphate and sulfate, then lead, barium, strontium and calcium are definitely not there as cations. Because if I just explain you the reason, if I have barium sulfate, calcium sulfate, strontium sulfate, similarly I have barium phosphate, I have calcium phosphate, and I talk about strontium phosphate. All these salts are insoluble. So they cannot be given to you because the CBSE syllabus only talks about the soluble salts. So if it is phosphate and sulfate, please do not test lead and group 5. If you report this combination, you will be making a blunder. This will never be given to you. So I hope anion analysis is clear. These were the simple tests by which you can identify a salt in hardly 15 minutes.